Hey guys, welcome to Creative Acts. My name is Mohammed. This is officially my first video on this channel. I'm going to be doing a couple of different things. My three main focuses for this channel will be cooking, public speaking, and lastly, arts. On today's video, I'm going to be focusing on the cooking aspect of things. What we're going to be making on this video today is croissants. They're probably not going to be perfect, but I know that I'm going to enjoy the process. So, how do you make a croissant? It's mostly dough, and within the dough you make layers of butter and dough. And the more layers you have, the better, because the layers of butter are what going to make the dough rise and have that extra crispiness. With all that said, I can't wait to make these croissants, show them to you, and I would really appreciate it if you guys made this recipe and you maybe follow along with me and then send me pictures of your croissants or your version of croissants. Feel free to modify the recipe and just enjoy yourself, because that is the whole point of this video. I'll see you guys in the kitchen.
Now in the kitchen, let's get started with the ingredients. The recipe will be available to you in the description box below. So start by adding 500 grams of flour and then 50 grams of sugar. You add 20 grams of yeast to that and then 10 grams of salt. Now add 125 milliliters of water and then another 125 milliliters of the milk. So you can use a machine or your hand. Just knead the dough and just keep kneading it until you get a smooth dough. This will normally take about 15 minutes, but just keep kneading until you end up with a smooth dough, as you can see on the screen. Once you have your smooth dough, I'm just making sure mine is really smooth. You can see that I've put out my butter so it softens up. But anyways, once you have a smooth dough, what you want to do is take some oil and just put on the bottom of your pan and let there be a lot of oil so that when your dough rises, it doesn't stick. So now just put your dough back in the bowl with the oil, and you want to get cling film or plastic and just cover your bowl with plastic and let it rest in the fridge overnight. Okay, now you get your butter which you have left out to soften. I'm using about 300 grams of unsalted butter, and take a Ziploc bag. So cut the butter into squares and place them in your bag. It doesn't matter what size the squares are because you're going to end up cutting them anyways, so you're going to end up beating them up and rolling them, so it doesn't really matter. Once you have all your butter in there, just try your best to remove as much of the air as you can. Using a rolling pin, you can hit the butter slowly as you get it ready to roll out. You want to roll the butter into a slab using the bag as your guideline. So just keep rolling until you have the butter into a slab. The main point at this stage is basically just removing the air within the bag, because that's what will give you a lot of trouble, but Otherwise, it's quite simple to get it into the shape considering you have the bag there to guide you. So as you can see, I managed to get my butter into a slab. Once you've done that and you're happy with where you've reached, you want to just take your butter and let it rest overnight in the fridge as well.
Hey everyone, it's day 2 of the croissant making process. Because I made the dough, left it in the fridge overnight and took it out a few minutes ago so it can proof. And we're going to discuss how I'm going to do the whole process. I have a board and my whiteboard markers. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do the layering for the croissant. Let's get to it. So basically, to make the perfect croissant, you need 12 layers. Fold it in 4 layers and then do 3 layers. So before we even reach there, the croissant itself, each layer is going to have dough. Each layer is going to have dough. And then we have the butter that's right in the center of the dough. And then we have dough again. So that's each layer of the croissant. To get the perfect croissant, I need again 12 layers. To get the 12 layers, I am going to have to do something like a double fold, which is simply the croissant folded over itself like that. So that will give me 4 folds, right? Number 4. And then after that, I do an envelope fold, which is basically 3 folds. So it goes like that and like that. And that will give me 3 folds. So we have 4 multiplied by the 3, we end up with 12 folds, which should be the perfect croissant. Well, not perfect, because nothing's perfect, but hopefully the perfect croissant. So, with all that said, I'll see you guys in the kitchen. So, I'm in the kitchen now, and this is the dough. It stayed overnight in the fridge. It did grow quite a bit, and then I took it out for a few minutes, and as you can see, it's really puffed up. And my slab of butter, which I made yesterday, so right now the butter is just perfectly bending. So this is what you need. You want to make sure the butter is quite flexible, like you can bend it without breaking it. That way you know you can roll it within your dough. So let's get to the rolling process.
Hey guys, so my dough has been out of the fridge for a while, and it's now ready for the rolling process. So get some flour, put that flour, lather it all over that dough. Don't be shy of adding a lot of flour, just do this so that it doesn't stick. And get some flour on your rolling pin as well. So now what you want to do is roll the dough into a rectangle, and you want the rectangle to be big enough for the slab of butter you made to sit right at the center diagonally. So just roll your dough. If for you find that while you're rolling the dough it's pulling back and coming back into its original shape, you should not force the dough, just let it rest for a few minutes, after which it should now be able to roll out without any disturbances. So I've placed my butter, but I realized that I still need to just increase the size of the dough a little bit so that I can cover the butter well. Okay, after you have rolled out your dough and you're sure that your butter will sit on there and the dough will be able to fully cover it without any peeking, so just take out your butter and place your slab of butter right in the center of the dough but diagonally, and just let it sit on there. And now you want to encase the butter, making sure there are no gaps left and no holes. So just pull every corner of your dough onto the butter, making sure the corners are sealed, because if you don't push down on them, the butter will leak out, which is not what we want. So as you can see, just stretch out the dough right onto your butter. This way you will make sure that the butter doesn't leak out and is properly covered. After you do that, make sure all four corners are well covered, as you can see on mine, and there is no any butter peeking out. Now just push onto those edges so they stick, and what I would suggest you do is after this, turn over your dough so you can roll it out. Pushing down on the dough will help seal up the edges. And now, using your rolling pin, starting from the center, you want to push and roll the dough in one direction only. If you keep doing back and forth, what will happen is the butter will move to only one side, whereas if you're doing one direction of folds at a time, that will just thin out your butter and spread it all over the dough well. So you just want to roll out your dough into a long rectangle of about 30 centimeters by 10 centimeters. It's going to be difficult to get it straight, but please get it as straight as possible. This way you're able to create layers properly without having funny overlaps or funny shapes. Once you have managed to make your rectangle, what we want to do now is do the first fold, which is a double fold. So basically, you let the two short edges meet in the center of the dough. Once you've done that, now fold the dough in half again. You can tug and pull on the corners to make sure they are meeting. And once you've done that, now fold your dough in half, as you can see on screen right now. And this is going to rest in the fridge for about 15 minutes, because at this point the butter has melted. So we're putting it in the fridge for 15 to 30 minutes so that the butter sort of stiffens up and is going to make it easier to roll out. Okay, it's now been about 20 minutes and it's now time to do the second fold, which is the single fold. So in order to do the single fold, you want to make sure that you turn your dough, because you should not roll it the same way it was. Now, because we had rolled it on the side, we're now going to turn the dough straight and roll it that way. So as before, dust the dough with some flour and start by gently pressing on the dough before rolling it out. The reason why we press before rolling it out is pressing will help you know whether the butter is soft enough to be rolled or it's solidified. If you feel your butter is in lumps, you should let your dough rest for a few minutes just to let that butter soften up. And you want to make sure to roll the dough in one direction at a time, just like before. Do not do back and forth movements. So you do one direction, and then if you feel like switching, you can switch and do the opposite direction, but do not do both at one time, as this will, as I said before, move all your butter to one side and leave some areas with no butter at all. And what you want to do is roll the dough into a long rectangle. Okay, so once you have rolled your dough into a long rectangle and you're happy with it, you will fold it in thirds. Do not do this part. I had read online that cutting the sides helps the butter reach the edges, which, yes, it did help my butter reach the edges. However, as you will see later on this video, the butter will leak out and will ruin my dough when I'm rolling it. So you can skip this part, but if you find a better way of doing it, go ahead. However, I'm now rolled it into thirds. I'm going to cover my dough and let it rest in the fridge for another 15 minutes. The reason for resting, again, as I said, is to let the butter solidify, because we do not want the butter to melt. If your butter has melted, it merges in with the dough and just becomes one dough. My dough has rested in the fridge for 15 minutes, and it's now time for the hard part, rolling the dough to about 4 millimeters thick. Yeah, I said 4 millimeters thick. It's okay though, you don't have to get it to exactly 4 millimeters, just as close to 4 millimeters as you can get it. So I'm feeling for the butter in the dough. It's actually quite smooth and I'm able to roll out. So I'm just using my hands to push down the dough and help flatten it. You now take your rolling pin, apply flour all over it so the dough doesn't stick to it, and you want to use your rolling pin to flatten the dough and feel for the butter. It should feel smooth and you're able to push down on the dough without feeling any clumps or hard bits in the dough. If you feel there are hard bits, that means your butter is hard and you should give it some time to rest before you start rolling out the dough. Keep rolling your dough and get it as close to 4 millimeters as possible. And that is exactly what I am doing right now. Now, as you can see, because I cut the edges of my dough, the dough opened up on the bottom, and this is only going to get worse, as you will see later on in the video. However, I still tried my best, put some flour on the rolling pin and some very little flour on the dough, and what I tried to do is just thin out the dough some more, because you need it to be as close to 4 millimeters as you can get it. Now this is the closest I could get my dough to 4 millimeters without ripping the whole thing apart. So I just gently kept rolling it until I was satisfied with it. Once I was happy with the thickness of my dough and how it looked, I now took my knife and started shaping the croissants. So in order to shape the croissants, you need to cut your dough into triangles. Make them any size you please. I did a variety of sizes. So what I did is I divided my dough into 2 halves first of all, and then the bottom half I aligned the lines, putting 2 lines, and then on top of the 2 lines I'd put 1 line right in the middle and use those lines as your guideline to cut the triangles. The reason why I made different sizes because I wanted to see how they will turn out and what size will work for me. So I realized that the small ones were actually quite nicer than the bigger ones because they were, you know, small and bite-sized, so you can munch on 1 or 2 for breakfast. Okay, maybe 4, because no one would really have just 2 small croissants and get satisfied by that. So the smaller ones worked better. To make the croissant shape, roll the triangle starting from the wide side and tightly roll them to the pointed side. Now, look at all those 12 beautiful layers that I managed to build up. Once you have rolled all of your croissants up, what you can do is get a baking tray and place parchment paper at the bottom so that when you bake your croissants they don't stick. However, seeing as I did not have parchment paper, here's a life hack that might help you. Apply butter onto your baking tray, make sure all edges get the butter, then dust some flour onto it and make sure the flour reaches every single corner and edge of your baking tray. This will prevent the croissant from sticking to the bottom of the tray. Now place them all on the tray and repeat with the rest of your dough. So once you're done with all of your dough and your croissants, you want to cover them with cling film or plastic and just let them rest for about 15. Well, it will depend on your place and how warm it is. The proofing could take anywhere between 30 minutes to 2 hours. Now, because it's quite warm where I stay, they took about 30 minutes. Now, as you can see, mine have doubled in size and are quite jiggly when I shake the tray. So I just got some egg wash and applied it to my croissants. I baked them in the oven at 200 degrees for about 15 minutes or until they're golden brown. Once you're done, they should be golden brown, and you just let them cool and enjoy your croissants.
Hey guys, so it's the end of day 2 of making the croissants. It's been a great experience, first of all. It's been great to see. By the way, this is the first time I'm ever making croissants, so I'm really happy about the way they've come out. It was great to see them going from flour all the way to the final product, which is the croissant. The reason why I don't have any right now as we speak, they're in the kitchen, and all the croissants I've made, there's only 3 pieces left, and I'm not even joking. Like, people have eaten all of the pieces that were there. Of course, me being a first-time maker of the croissants, I'm very happy. There are some things I would have changed about them. The color, I guess I had a lot of heat on the top flame. So what that caused is the croissants turned dark, especially the bigger ones. So next time I'll probably reduce the heat on top. In regards to the cooking, the experience was great. I hope you tried them as well and had a great experience. In that case, thank you guys for watching. Please hit that like button, smash that like button actually, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to share this video to anyone you want to share it to and anyone who will probably love this video. Once again, thank you guys for watching. This is Creative Acts signing out. See you in the next video. Bye!